Hey guys, Caleb here. This is the Sencha Drive pedal I just put out last week. I'm just going to make a simple video tonight just showing some different sounds you can dial in with it, do some knob turning, play through a couple different guitars. So yeah, I'm just plugging straight in to the Sencha Drive, then going straight into my Fender Hot Rod Deluxe. I've got reverb and delay in the effects loop that I may or may not use here and there. So that's basically it. Okay, so I'm just going to start with all the knobs at noon, and then if you have the thickness and brightness switches both turned down and symmetrical clipping selected, then it's basically just a straight up TS-808 tube screamer. So I'm going to show you guys what that sounds like. I'm using my Fender Strat. We're going to dial in some neck pickup tones because I think they sound awesome. So first I'll show you the clean tone. It's a really nice clean sound. All right. So as you can hear, it's got that really nasally kind of mid-hump thing going on. So normally I would probably just kick up the brightness a little bit to try and get some more clarity and bite. And that's a pretty good sound. You know, I mean, it does the trick. It sounds great with a neck Strat pickup. But one thing I really like about the Sencha Drive, we'll set that back at noon, you can kick up the brightness. And you get all that air and top end back. And you can, you know, dial in the tone to taste. So that's really cool. I like having that brightness switch there just to get a lot of that bite and attack back, you know, that you lose without it. Okay, and then the thickness switch adds in low end. Great for fattening up a Strat bridge pickup. You know, they're very bright and thin sounding sometimes. So that's really handy as well. If you flip up both switches, then you're adding top and low back in, and then you get more of a flatter EQ response. Sounds awesome. I just love having that option there. Another great way to use a tube screamer is, say if I didn't have these switches. It doesn't really sound that great, I don't think, running into a perfectly clean amp like this. Especially if you crank up the gain. It doesn't sound terrible, but you kind of hear some of the clean signal still. It just sounds kind of weird. So if you kick up the volume a bunch just to push the amp into, you know, overdrive all on its own. Now we've got a really nice overdrive sound. So that's how I would like to use a tube screamer. So if you don't want the mid hump, you don't have to have it. You can kick up these and you can get a great overdrive sound without it. And of course, if you're one of the classic tube screamer guys, you can still dial in a great, just straight up tube screamer sound. And then I also have the symmetrical and asymmetrical clipping. Symmetrical is just your normal tube screamer clipping, but asymmetrical is found in the Boss SD1, which is a tube screamer style overdrive that I really like. So with asymmetrical clipping, you're clipping one side of the waveform more than the other, so you get a little off balance kind of thing. Sounds a little bit more kind of gritty, but I think it sounds better, and it sounds really cool, I think, with asymmetrical clipping when you're doing more open kind of playing. It just sounds more harmonic to me, more pleasant. So that's when I would use the asymmetrical clipping over the symmetrical, is when I want to do that open kind of playing where you've got strings ringing out. It just sounds, to me, better. The symmetrical clipping is what I would use if I'm trying to get more of a, you know, rock and roll punch, you know, power chord kind of thing. Because when you use asymmetrical clipping for that, it gets kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't sound as good to me. It just sounds tighter. So yeah, that is the Sencha Drive at a first glance. So let me switch guitars to a Les Paul and I'll show you what it sounds like with humbuckers now. Alright, so now I've got my Les Paul with some humbuckers in it, so you can hear what that sounds like. I've got the pedal set back to TS-808 standard, settings, everything at noon. This is my clean sound. Don't really care for that sound too much, especially if you kick up the drive. Just sounds kind of flubby. So with this, what I would do is get some of that brightness back. Doesn't sound bad at all. Of course, if you push the volume up and then start hitting that amp harder, kick back the volume pedal a little bit, you get a much crisper sounding overdrive. It just sounds so much better. So if you're like me and you play indoors a lot at home and you can't really kick up the volume this loud to start breaking up the amp, then there's a couple things you can do to get this kind of sound. One of them is use a overdrive pedal that's based on an preamp, like a blues breaker, which I have my morning blues down here that I use for this. And I'll run the tube screamer in front of it, so I've got the amp kind of breakup coming from the morning blues, and then I get the, tube screamer as a second gain stage to get that kind of breakup. So I'm not going to do it right now because I don't have it plugged in, but just a tip. If you don't have a amp-like overdrive pedal, you can also use like a dirty channel on your amp and just set the gain really low that way too. Or I have a Marshall Studio Vintage, which is a gritty kind of amp. So if you've got like a orange or something like that that breaks up at low volumes, then that'll do the trick too. So thanks for checking out the video. Hope you like the sounds. If you got any questions for me, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Have a good night.